21.
Let it hit.
Oh, wait.
Let it hit.
No, not what you said. Wait,
Hey everyone, this is Cardfight, bringing you a premium match today. Today we're going to be testing out my Infinite deck, which I hope you guys watched the barely supported episode that I did, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So today is just going to be a showcase of that deck, and it's going to be going up against Gear Chronicle, specifically a kind of Chronojet, Steam Maiden merging mix. There's a word for it, but it's completely escaping me. Anyways, we do see Lost Gear Dog 8 being ridden here, revealing the Heel Guardian in order to search out the Chronojet Dragon, and then of course just discarding another Lost Gear Dog 8 for the cost. So moving on over to Infinite, we are going to be starting off with the Infinite Swallow. It is just in the deck to kind of dig for Buriums and kind of dig for Craving Claw, because I think those are just two pretty good cards. Looks like we're going to be adding that Burium off of the top 5, of course, before we ride for our ride phase. The ride fixers are honestly just kind of fantastic cards. Unfortunately, they are not created equal. I speak as a Great Nature player who has probably one of the worst ride fixers in the game, mostly just because of the luck, the lottery mechanic is just absolutely terrible. But of course, no one knows what any of these cards do, so everyone tries to spend a lot of time reading them. Of course, we are going to be riding into that Burium. Unfortunately, it looks like that was our only ride target. Preferably, you would prefer to have that. You would prefer to have that as your as a rear guard, as we swing under. Not going to be able to deal any damage because we're not going to be hitting a trigger there. Of course, we do get the Quick Shield and the Heel Guardian. Riding into, I don't know what that Steam Maiden is called, but she is there. Just gonna be no guarding it, getting a critical trigger, so pushing 2 damage here. So gonna be starting off at 2. So we'll have to see what we can do here next. Looks like we are going to be riding into what's his name, Zirconium. So his skill is going to be Counterblasting 1. Of course, we do have to read because nobody knows what any of these cards do. I don't think we have anyone who plays Chaos in our locals. Checking the top card, choosing to put it into the front row so that basically we don't get an extra 10k and we don't get a draw card. But at the same time, you're kind of giving up a front row rearguard circle. So who's really winning here? I honestly don't know. Going to be riding into that Chronojet Dragon, getting the Force Marker. Now, of course, we can't actually stride this turn, but we can use Chronojet's skill to pseudo stride, probably deciding where we want to put that Force Marker, putting it on the Vanguard, which is a pretty good option. Normally, you'd probably want to put it onto the sides because, you know, you're going to be swinging multiple times, but because you are against Link Joker, there is the possibility that both your lines get locked down and you're no longer able to actually multi-attack, and those force markers end up being wasted. So definitely putting it on the Vanguard is a viable situation, especially when you're going up against a deck like Link Joker. Going to be striding into that Time Leaper, swinging this other rear guard. It's a Steam Maiden. She doesn't really have any effects because her only effect activates when she's placed on rear from Bind Zone. Going to be Time Leaping it into, I'm not sure what we go for here. We go for that Steam Maiden, the main Vanguard one, and then of course it gets on a 10k from, I believe, the Time Leaper skill. So Time Leaper swinging in for 15, which is a pretty decent number when you're going up against a grade 2 Vanguard. Actually it's not even 15. I forgot about the Force Marker. Gosh, I'm so used to standard. But that is actually 25, so it looks like we're going to be no guarding that. Start tricking a Melum and a, a Lost Gear Dog 8. Hitting into not a defensive there, so 23 is going to be just guarded with that 15k guard. End of turn, we're going to rewrite into the Chronojet, putting another Force Marker on the Vanguard circle, and of course, once we remember that Melum will unlock, there she goes. But of course, we are still vulnerable to having our entire front row locked because we did leave units there. Riding into the Infinite Zero Dragon, just getting that Force Marker and putting it on the Vanguard circle. And then of course now we can actually activate the skill of Infinite Zero Dragon, which is for a counterblast and a discard, allows you to lock a card. But if we were at 4 damage, you'd be able to lock a front row and a back row. Going to be relocking that Melum there, and basically just cutting down Chronojet into one column, discarding the crit trigger there in order to stride. Not entirely sure what we should stride here. There's a lot of options, but none of them are actually that great. I guess we could go with like Barrio End, erase the force markers. Although I will say at this instance, this was kind of a janky G-Zone. I kind of just took this G-Zone from my deleter deck, and we don't always have everything. But looks like we're going to be going for, I want to call it Nebula Dragon, but I know this card. You played in deleters, that's why it's still in the G-Zone. But ooh, calling out the Burium, which is going to be able to proc during the end phase. So this card looks like we're probably just going to be using it to gain some advantage, calling a Craving Claw there. So we've got a 15k column, which is, you know, not great, but Joshua, give that card back. Put it back. There we go. Okay. So calling down an Infinite Zero Dragon. Unfortunately, we did damage check one and we drew into another one of them, so we only have one left in the deck, so hopefully we don't drive check it here. Now that Infinite Zero Dragon does actually get another 5k because of the fact that we have a locked card there. So we are just going to be boosting. Okay, looks like we're going to be swinging with the Vanguard first, and then, of course, probably using its skill. We do have the Counterblast for it. We're just going to Counterblast. Cosmic, I can't read that other word from here, but Cosmic Dragon lets you... It actually does not flip there. This is a misplay. You don't actually flip for Cosmic. But we check the top 7. You choose 2 to place as locked cards, and then you choose any number of locked cards and either add them to your hand or unlock them. And then as many as that you add it to your hand, your opponent has to lock the same number of their rear guards. So that's going to be locking down the other column. So a little unfortunate. We see Matt reading Harmonix Messiah, because with the advent of History Collection, every single premium deck technically does have an out to Link Joker in the form of their Harmonix Messiah. If you stride into it, you can actually counter a lot of the locks. So that Nebula Lord looks like somebody no guard, drive checking into a Forbid All, and then double Infinite Swallow there, hitting into a Doki Doki Worker, allowing us to draw a card. Swing for 15, unfortunately, is not going to be able to hit, but this Infinite Zero Dragon definitely will be able to hit because it gets another 10k thanks to both of the locked cards. Now, during the end phase, we'll destride, and then since the opponent does have a locked card, we'll use the skill of the Burium in order to re-ride a Infinite Zero Dragon from the deck. And of course, rewriting into Infinite Zero Dragon is going to allow us to gain another force marker. So honestly, that's the main play that Infinite does. It basically just rewrites, gets force markers. It's like, I don't know, it's just like striding. It literally did the same thing that Chronojet did, except, you know, it costs a lot more combo pieces. So we've got 2 force markers on the Vanguard on both sides, as we are going to be going into the Chronojet turn. They do... Chronojet does have the ability to stride here, but realistically there isn't really a great stride to go for. So we are actually going to be striding into that Harmonix Messiah, because in honesty we could go for what's her face, the Steam Maiden Girl. I'm honestly just free. It's been a while since I played Premium, but you could go for that, but the problem is that a lot of the Gear Chronicles strides rely on rear guards, you know, time leaping, but it's kind of hard to use your rear guards when, you know, you have 2 front row locked units. So striding into the Messiah, looks like we're deciding on how many cards we want to unlock. A fun fact is that if you use Messiah while you're under Burial End, you actually don't have to discard, because I think it's Burial End. It's one of the G zone where it's like if you have it face up, all unlocked cards get bound instead. But since the cards that would be unlocked get bound, you don't actually have to discard, because Harmonix Messiah specifically states that you discard for every card that gets unlocked, and if a card doesn't get unlocked, then you don't have to discard for it. But of course, we did discard a Melum to unlock the Melum on board. I will say that like Harmonix Messiah is definitely a good way to out the locks. The problem is that you're losing out on basically the ability to do anything. You kind of have to rely on your rear guards to do all the heavy lifting, and if you're not a deck that has just like really good what am I trying to say? Really good rear guards that can kind of stand alone, then you are at a little bit of a handicap because of the Messiah. Anyways, we do call TikTok Worker, deciding to unlock the other column. swinging at the Vanguard, hitting into a defensive trigger there, using the TikTok worker to time leap the Melum. And then, of course, Melum's skill, since she did get an extra 4k for attacking, she does have to return herself to the bottom of the deck. But since she's no longer on field to pay that, to fulfill that part of the effect, the last bit is just going to call a grade 0 from the deck at rest. So calling another copy of that TikTok worker, which of course can still use its skill. Looks like we're kind of just deciding what we want to call out here. So it looks like we are going to be calling out the TikTok worker, but instead of that grade 2, we're just going to be calling it Enterana, using the skill to counterblast 1 and then call the Geared Cat. This card just has a different name. I know I traded them in at BCS. It's like Gear Cat Traveling on the Storm or something. They changed it from, I don't remember what they changed it from. Either it doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm talking about this. All right, so it looks like we are going to be swinging with that column for a 19 at the rear guard, actually, kind of just taking it out of there. Although we did see a drive check in the Forbid All in the last turn's drive check, so we can technically just reborn that, which if you watch that barely supported episode, you know why Forbid All is in the deck, and if we could actually pull that off, it would be a very big funny. Anyways, looks like we're using the skill of, I think that's a Gear Cat. It's one of them that, like, after a boost, you Soul Blast 1, check top 3, add 1, bind 1, and then I think the other goes to bottom of the deck? I don't remember who. It's been a while since that card has been relevant. But anyway, since it finished attacking, we are going to be using TikTok Worker's skill in order to time leap it into another copy of that Steam Minion that I don't remember the name of. But this skill is not really relevant. It gets like 2k for every card in the bind zone, but if it's on Van, it gets like 3k or something, but not overly relevant. Swinging the Messiah here for, is that 29? That's actually a mistake. That should be 59. No, 49, because I forgot about the force markers there. Funnily enough, Messiah is just like one of the few G units that doesn't have plus 15 and has plus 16 for whatever reason. But of course, it looks like we're going to be no guarding this because I don't know if we don't want to use a PG. We get a PG there, a heal trigger there, which is unable to proc, and a critical trigger, so giving the crit to the Vanguard, and then the power to the rear guard. Hitting into double defensive there, a draw trigger and a heal trigger, allowing us to heal back down to 4, and then of course kind of countercharging there. Going to be taking out that Craving Claw because it won't be able to actually hit anything. And then of course time leap's going to end, and Tarana gets called again. Looks like you were using her skill on place to call another Gear Cat, just calling it straight from the deck. That card is definitely worth being at 1 in this instance, as you can tell. If you weren't around for Steam Maiden meta, there's a reason why that card is at 1. Just because it can do insane things like this. Using the Gear Cat to check top 3, adding a Steam Mating, adding another PG there. So just having an insane amount of advantage. So it looks like we are going to be striding here into actually Quintessence 0 drag. Is it Quintessence? No, I don't think it is Quintessence 0. It's just like Death Starvader Quintessence Dragon or something like that. Anyways, we'll see it. So we are actually at 4 damage here. So we're going to be counterblasting 1. Let me just help, because it looks like we forgot to use the skill. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. We choose a front row and back row rear guard, and then lock them down. So we're going to lock in the entire column, and because we have 4 damage, that is going to become an Omega Log, meaning they don't unlock during the next end phase. So we might have wanted to save the harmonics for this instance to get rid of the Omega Locks, but of course we didn't. Who knows that Quintessence Dragon is a thing, but we do play the Forbid All, which is going to allow us to do the perfect setup of calling the Infinite Distarve as well as the Infinite Zero Dragon from the drop zone. So deck thinning, and we have a very funny play all set up here, which if you guys watch that video, you would know that we have the potential to hit 3 Vanguard attacks. Of course, nobody knows what these cards do, so everyone is trying to pick them up and read them because, you know, nobody knows what these cards do. Calling down the Lady Battler of the White Dwarf. Of course, that is just a great researcher. Things are actually in a very advantageous situation here for Infinite, because we do see 2 face down damage, so Jet's probably going to want to take at least 1 damage here, right? Now we do actually have the Arum, which can countercharge, but I don't think we have one set up in the drop zone, meaning the only way we could theoretically get there is if we PG twice. Looks like we're calling 2 of the Solon GB1 crits. Going to be actually proccing both of these skills. Was it the Vandal Sharp? Adding another 20k to the Vanguard. And in addition to those force markers, drawing the 2 cards, going to be a total of 68 here. So this is probably either a PG or a take. And honestly, it's probably a take, even though, you know, there is a chance of risking crit. Looks like we're going to be taking it. Drive check 1, nothing. Drive check 2, nothing. And drive check 3, nothing. So just going to be taking 1 damage there. Not a huge problem. Swinging the Distarve for a 24. Now, if this attack hits, we can actually counterblast 2 and discard a card in order to superior ride this unit from the rear guard circle. And looks like we are actually going to be taking it, hitting into another Heart Thump worker, allowing us to use the skill of Infinite Distarve. So of course, just rereading it, making sure we have everything. Counterblasting. Unfortunately, we made a little bit of a mistake here. We were supposed to counterblast 2 here, but it's, you know, mistakes happen. It's fine. Superior ride into the Vanguard, and now it is still on 2 force markers. So even though it is a pitiful 11k, it does have +2 force markers as we swing the Infinite Zero, who is now at 23 because of the double locked cards. Swinging this Distarve Dragon. If this attack hits, since we're on limit break, we can actually bind that rearguard Infinite Zero Dragon and rewrite it, getting another force marker and another Vanguard swing. But unfortunately, Mr. No Fun here is going to be PGing that attack, so no more funny shenanigans for us. Everyone cannot stop passing around that Infinite Distarve. Drive check 1, drive check 2, a whole bunch of nothing. So things are looking a little bit dicey here. We have a ton of cards in hand, but as we saw in those last couple of drive checks, most of them are kind of blank. We saw like 2 Nebula Lord Dragons and like a bunch of 5k shields. So honestly, can we survive this? Maybe. I think the biggest thing in our favor, or going in our favor, is the fact that we have the entire column just locked down there, meaning that we only have access to a few attacks. There we go. Her name's Lishma. I don't know why I just remembered that, but we do have access to quite a bit of multi-attack. Swinging the 15, pretty easy guard here, so we're probably just going to be guarding that garden with the Infinite Swallow. Now, of course, we are able to at least get, how many attacks is this? 2 more at least, I think. We're going to be swinging, binding it, and then I think we just called it back, or we called another copy, using the, what is that? I think we're PGing this, and then discarding, deciding what we want to discard. We honestly have a lot of good discard outlets here. Drive check 1 is going to be a Chronojet Dragon. Drive check 2 going to be a grade 2, and then drive check 3 is just going to be a grade 3. And then, of course, swinging the other column, I think we will be able to Soul Blast 1 and call the Lishma from the G zone, so we still have like 2 more attacks. Taking this one, not getting a defensive, but using the Lishma skill from the G zone in order to bind the grade 3 that just attack and swing for another 15k at the rearguard, looks like. Just kind of denying our fun once again, meaning that Distarve can actually not proc and it won't let us superior ride again. But that's not going to stop us from doing things as we ride into the Nebula Lord Dragon, which of course is kind of just the alternate boss unit of the deck. Of course, riding into it, we do get access to another force marker, and we actually have a pretty beneficial setup here. I guess we can go over Nebula Lord Dragons as Matt is just reading it. So I believe it's Soul Blast 1, retire a Starvader, and then your opponent looks at the top card of their deck and they call it to a back row or front row, and then if they have no back row rear guards, it gets drive +1, and then it also has the continuous skill that if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, all of your Starvaders gain an extra 5k for each locked card your opponent controls. We do see the is that Zirconium here, using 2 Zirconiums here to call to the front row to prevent the draw, but of course we do have another one there that is going to be forced to the back row because it has to call it to open rear guard circle. And then of course Nebula Lord Dragon here doing the same thing, looking at the top card and then calling it. Actually, we had a little bit of a ruling dispute here. We do have the Elementaria that does get called as a locked card. We made a mistake here. We kind of put it to the drop zone because orders can't be on the field, but that is actually an incorrect ruling. if orders get placed as a locked card, then they actually stay locked as a locked card until they unlock, in which case they fizzle. But of course, we just did, this is just a fun match, and we didn't actually really care a whole ton there. We'll just call that the mistake to make up for the what's it called, the miss of the counterblast too, because it does actually kind of matter, because it would have made us do double. We wouldn't have been able to do double Zirconium is what I'm trying to say. But of course, we do have other things here to do. So all these Starvaders in the columns. So the Craving Claw, the Zirconium, and then I think that's another Craving Claw behind the Vanguard, as well as the Vanguard itself, I think. I don't remember if it's units or rear guards. But either way, this is going to be a pretty big column here as we swing the Infant. Using its skill, which is actually kind of an illegal activation. You're supposed to check the top card and then call it to an open rearguard circle as a locked card. But we are going to be seeing actually calling over here, which is both a big mistake and not technically legal. But, you know, once again, this is just for a fun match. So we're not really being any serious here. But that is still a pretty big Infant Swallow column. It has a force marker, so it is at 20k base. Plus the Craving Claw is 18. And then Craving Claw is getting another 20k. So I think, what is that, 48? And then, of course, looks like Starvaders do get the power. Because this Nebula Dragon is going to be swinging for 53 with triple drive. So even though we didn't stride, we still get the triple drive, hitting into, I think that was like a critical trigger there. And then, of course, swinging the last column for 53. Just like absolutely massive column there. Of course, I think we're at 4, although I think we got a critical trigger there, so we do kind of have to guard this, as I think we're just recalculating a bunch of power there. That is, what is that? That's 20 with the I don't remember if this was, I think this is the one that got an extra 10k, so that's like 30k base with the trigger, and then of course the 13k boost, and then another 20k on top of that for all the locked cards. Just gonna be PG'd, allowing us to countercharge. So we have nothing to do here, so we're going to discard that Chronojet and go straight into our only option, Chrono Dragon, next stage, calling out the Heart Thumping Worker. This is something straight out of the anime, which technically we should not have been able to call that Heart Thump Worker, because that order card should have still been there. But as we're going to be seeing, it's not going to matter as we throw down a Cosmo Wreath here, just going to be PGing that Vanguard swing. Now, of course, that is D next stage as we get a crit and flip over the Overtrigger, giving all the power to the Heart Thump Worker, meaning that we are going to be swinging with the Chronojet Dragon, using this skill to prevent Sentinels. But of course, we have Elementaria, meaning that it is not going to mean anything. But that is actually going to be the end of the match, because there were only 3 cards left in deck after that next stage, and that is going to lead to just a deck out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this rare premium match. I'll probably be doing a lot more matches for the funny decks that I do for Barely Supported, but don't forget to do those things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.